Today we're sitting down with Mishelle Ekunsirinde, founder and CEO of Play and Oak, a design-forward boutique that curates children's play spaces with intention, beauty, and belonging. Michelle and I talk all about her journey of creating a brand rooted in her identity as a woman, a mother, designer, and entrepreneur, and the deeper purpose behind making spaces that honor both function and feeling. We explore what it really takes to start something that feels aligned, how to quiet that inner critic when stepping into the unknown, and the emotional layers that come with building a brand that reflects your soul. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
Thank you for being here with us today. I am so hyped to chat with you, and I'm really just obsessed with the beauty and creativity your company creates for our little ones.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That intro was amazing. I'm just gonna hear that and record it and just repeat it on repeat all day because it just sounded so great.
It's so you, it's so true, and I really just I appreciate everything that you do, especially as a mom who doesn't always have the best style. I don't always understand like the basics of putting together a beautiful space. But just like you and I were talking about before we started recording, I just really love the energy of a space when it comes to, creating that environment that feels inviting and warm. And I can't wait to hear all about the behind the scenes to building that.
Part of creating a space that you love is filling it with things that you love, regardless of trends, regardless of styles. If you ask me my style, it's a mashup of many styles. And so I think one of the things in terms of creating a space that you love is really filling it with things that you love.
That's such a great point. That's so true. Yeah, and sometimes it's like you mentioned, just like a hodgepodge of things that you don't anticipate going together, but because of the vibe that it creates, it goes together really well.
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
I want to start from the beginning. What inspired you to create Play and Oak and how did you bring it to life?
So Plan Oak was inspired by my journey as a mom, wanting to create a magical space where my child felt seen, but also wanting it also to be beautiful because we were incorporating these spaces now into our adult spaces, into our adult home. And so when we started, I mentioned in when we were talking off camera about my office being their playroom. That wasn't always the way it was. My office was just my office and we renovated so that it was a playroom. Until before that, we had spaces where there were just corners. Many people don't have a whole space for their children's things outside of the bedroom. And so they might have a corner. And so it really was inspired by, how do I say, weaving the two together, allowing my child to be seen in all areas of the house and say, hey, that space is for me too, but also making it and incorporating it in a way that still was very beautiful and intentional and felt intentional for me as well.
Yeah, you're speaking right to me because we don't actually have separate spaces. We live in a very small space. And so we have to get very creative with it. And honestly, our living room serves as like everything. It's like their play space, sometimes our office, sometimes, and then the kitchen blends into the living room. So sometimes it's like all three all at once.
All at once. Yes, we live in a world where our homes and our rooms serve multi purposes all the time. You know, the kids' bedroom could also be part of their homework corner, and the living room could also be homework central as well as the living room, as well as depending on how small the space is, it could be the dining room as well. And so, wanting to create that space where children feel seen and feel like they belong in that space, but also not having it always be bright primary colors. Um, Not doing it in a way that looks jarring, but really incorporating them into the space as well in just a very cohesive way. And we do that through our I think one of the ways that we do that or attempt to do that is through our whimsical characters, our watercolor, which is very soft. And so I think the combination of those things, as well as the storytelling behind some of the characters, also draws in the playfulness of adults as well. And so a lot of times we'll see adults who are like, oh my God, this is so cute. I want it. I want to put this on my nightstand so I can wake up and look at it and smile every day. And so that's really, really the goal, is to spark joy. So when you look at something, it makes you smile. When you look at something, it makes you maybe give you a glimpse or be nostalgic about your childhood and the childlike wonder you used to have before we got to our big ages.
I love that. That's such a great point. And it is true. I think to some degree, that's why you could never really be in a bad mood. Well, actually, let me take that back. I'm in a bad mood around my kids sometimes when they just, do kid like things, but maybe not for long, right? Because there's just something about like that playfulness energy. And I feel the same way in spaces that are for children. It's like bright and, inviting and also sometimes even like soothing. And
It
it
can be
really
fun.
fun. Exactly, fun. Yeah, it feels like it really invokes that inner child within you. So, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what we want. We want to spark that joy and bring out that inner child, that inner whimsy that we all love and pray for. And sometimes you don't know that we need it, but we need.
Now, what gaps did you see in the market that you felt like you had to fill?
I think a lot of what I seen that was out there for children were very much character, very strong character base. I think for my boys, I wanted to create a space, and we say every wall creates a story, right? And every wall tells a story. And I wanted that wall. I started out with, the main characters that we all know and love, that have movies out for them. But I realized that as my child grew, his interest grew. And as his interest started to grow, he started to grow out of these very, like, these boxes. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I like this, but I also like this. Yes, I like this, but I also like that. And what I saw was there was nothing out there that really spoke to, let's tell the whole story about this child. Yes, they might be into race cars. Yes, they might be into specific superheroes, but my son loves anime. He's into golf. He does jujitsu. He is into chess. He loves all these things. And so, just outside of doing these main character superheroes that we all know and love in the room, how about we have his room be more reflective of who he is, and then allow that room to grow and allow it to grow um with his, interests, and he loves to read. And so I wanted to create something for children to be able to not only showcase their love for whatever they're interested in at the moment, but to be able to build upon that. And, just as I have a gallery wall above me, which is a family pictures, his gallery wall is more of a personality wall because the wall speaks to who he is. And as he grows and his interests grow, the pictures might change. He loves all of the art. He's always like, Mom, can I get some merch? He's almost 10 now. So, we moved out of the bro phase really quickly. Like I said, I did not spend 26 hours of labor and have a major abdominal surgery for you to call me pro. So yeah, we're not going to do that. But that's where he is in the scheme of things in his development. And I wanted to be able to create something that fostered that because I know that I'm not the only parent that has children with multi interests. And I wanted to create a space for parents and children where the parents can say, you know what, my child is into this. And he also likes these things. And he also likes these things and race cars and this and that. And I don't have to do it completely themed around. What I can do is a run based off of my child's interest. And I wanted to be that place that parents went to when they thought about creating these spaces because helping parents create the magic that I was creating in my home.
Wow, honestly, everything you said is really so deep and it resonates with me on multiple levels. I think the idea of themes and the way that we curate it for our children oftentimes is in a box. You're
Hmm.
right. Like even the colors, right? At the most basic level. I remember when we had our first baby shower and just explaining to my mom and our family, everyone who was helping that, like, we don't want blue and pink, right? Like, we want neutral. It felt very like people were really shocked and just didn't understand. And that's just basic color. But then, as they get older, it's like the type of toys that they play with, like well, first of all, let's see what they like, right? And let's have a variety of things.
Let the space speak to who they are and allow it to grow into who they will become.
Absolutely, absolutely. We named our firstborn Rogue because we really, both my husband and I really truly live by that and believe in that.
I love that name. Oh my God. I love it.
Yeah, so I really do appreciate the just idea behind Plain Oak and everything that you do for families because it's very, very special, even just at the most basic level of it all. And of course, it's beautiful, but there's a lot of intention behind it. So, what limiting beliefs or fears came up for you as a first time founder?
So Plain Oak is not my first endeavor. Prior to
I
Plain
was
Oak,
gonna ask if, yeah, I was like, let me not assume. I'm assuming that.
it's okay. No, no worries. No worries at all. I'm what you would call a serial entrepreneur. But Plain Oak was not my first. My last company, Stina and May, I was an organic baby essentials and gifting company. Yes. And we grew that company to crazy heights, in major retailers and things like that. And it was amazing. It was fun. It was great. And I learned a lot from that. And that company is no longer, has since closed due to many, many factors. But what I will say, the limiting beliefs that I experienced, and I think the most profound change in my entrepreneurship journey actually came during Cena in May. And it was during the pandemic. There was a point where I don't have an MBA. And when I was running Cena in May, and I knew where I wanted to take it, I knew where I wanted to scale it. And this was very early in the journey. I was like, I don't know. I thought that maybe I didn't know, and like people who had MBAs knew more than me, or there was someone out there that had that magical pill that knew more than me, or that magical degree and this source of ever flowing knowledge, right? And what I will say is at some point during the pandemic, I stopped looking outside of myself for answers and started to look inside myself for the answers. And there was a point where I said literally out loud to myself, and I don't know if this is a PG-13, but I know my ish.
Mhm.
Okay. I know what I'm, wait a minute. And at the time, I had a mentor or an advisor who was telling me to do something that I knew that I felt was wrong in my core. And it was at that moment where I recognized that I knew more than I gave myself credit for. I had consumed a lot of information and that I did not need an MBA for me to feel like I knew what I knew. And I knew what I knew. When I started, the moment I started to say, you got this, you know your issue, you don't need validation from anyone else about the things that you want to do, the company went from $5,000 to $25,000 to $250,000, all the way up to high six figures.
Let's
And
go.
that was because I decided that I knew and I did not need validation from anyone else. And I think the limiting belief that a lot of women have as entrepreneurs is that someone else knows more than them. And I'm not saying we know everything. I know everything. I do not. But I know enough to get started. And I know enough that when I don't know, I can seek out that information. As entrepreneurs, we are resource experts in the sense of if we don't know something, we are going to figure it out. We're going to find somebody that knows it. We are going to ask the questions in the room to get the answers that we need. And so the minute I recognized that I did not need outside validation for the things that I knew, my company soared.
That's such
And
a great
so
lesson.
that's my advice. I'm sorry, but that's my advice, Understand that you know what you know and you know enough to get started.
Yeah. I think it also takes really understanding yourself, your intention, and your values. Because just like you said, you had that gut feeling that what someone who you entrusted for guidance was telling you something that wasn't in alignment with your vision and what you wanted to do. And I think that it's really important for an entrepreneur, especially a woman, especially a Black woman, just to understand self and what you want. And I think that, I oftentimes I wanna do it my way. I wanna do it, the way that I see fit. And at the same time, knowing myself well enough to know my struggles. Like I'm not the best at, design or whatever it is. And so I can entrust someone to lead me there. But if I don't know my intention, it could just sway. So I love your lesson there.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. There are things that I don't know. We were with large retailers. We were with Target, Nordstrom, Babyliss, Bye Bye Baby. We were onboarding for Macy's and Bloomingdale's. We were working internationally with a company called Hudson Bay, and we were doing all those things. I didn't know anything about retail, and I got into an accelerator program that then helped me learn more. But even outside of that accelerator program, you make mistakes, and that's how you learn. And now we are with Play and Oak. We are onboarding with QVC.
My
We are
gosh, that's
partnering with
amazing.
Babyliss. Yes, thank you. And I'm
Congratulations.
able to take those learnings and those mistakes because mistakes are learnings. The mistakes are okay. And I took the mistakes, and now I can implement the things that I learned in my last endeavor. And so I guess my other thing is to be okay with mistakes because mistakes are education.
They're necessary. Absolutely. You need some friction to let you know, like, oh, this doesn't feel good. I actually want to go this way. It's
Exactly.
valuable. I like to reframe failure or mistakes as like an attempt with feedback. So you attempted something. What's the feedback? Keep going.
Love that. It's my next thing. I'm not going to call them mistakes anymore. I'm going to call them attempts with feedback because
Yeah.
I love a good data.
Love
I
a good
love a good bit
reframe,
of
right?
data. Oh,
Yeah.
I just love it.
I love and appreciate a good accelerator. I think they're so important. I think it's important to create in community. And like what we were saying before, you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes you really do and really should turn to professionals when you can to show you how to do something. And then you get to determine how to do it in your own way. So, what was that accelerator program that helped you?
It was so I did a lot of accelerators. I will say I did one with Babson and it was the Win Lab. So it was Women Innovate Now Lab,
Mm-hmm.
I believe is what the Win Lab stood for. And that was amazing. That was really great for the beginning. And I did that at the beginning of Stina and May. I really launched Stina and May there. And then the accelerator that I did in terms of the retail knowledge was the Target Forward Founders Program.
I remember hearing about that, and I feel like it
Yeah,
was popular during the pandemic too.
it was a great, and I almost didn't apply for it, because I was pregnant during like in my first trimester with my youngest. And as you know, first trimester, sometimes you cannot see the forest for the trees. It was
Yes.
tough.
Yes.
And I had a really good friend just say, you know what, just try. Just try. I'm sure, just apply. And I
Mhm.
did. And I literally applied the night it expired. It was over. Like you could no longer apply. I applied that night. I think my application got in at like 10:50 or something. It was crazy. Yeah. Um, because I was really like, all right, I'll apply. And I did. In the interview, they actually said, well, I think you might be too far ahead for this. And I said, no. I said, I know, on paper, it seems like that because I may say yes, figure the rest out kind of person in the sense of if I see an opportunity, I'm going to say yes. And at the time, we had already gotten into Nordstrom and they thought, well, I think you might be ahead. And I said, I know on paper it looks like it. Well, we got into Nordstrom, but I know nothing about retail. And I think that this program could really help me set my foundation in retail and help me really take advantage of the relationship that we're creating with Nordstrom. And I am so grateful that the woman who interviewed me, and she actually ended up being kind of like our person, Alana, she understood what I was saying. And, I was accepted into the program. And I will tell you, in that program, I learned a lot about retail. It's another language. It really is another language. You have things like EDI, you have, like what are your MOQs and your MSRP and like all of these acronyms.
It's
You know,
really a language, different
is a,
language,
is a
literally.
language. Yes. And I didn't know what EDI meant. I was like, ED what? And it's electronic data interchange. And basically, it's a system for which you get your POs from one computer to another, essentially. And learning about math, and which is minimally advertised price, or basically the lowest price you want your product to be, and how to set all of that. I think that was a really great foundation for retail, and it was great. It was great to set the foundation, and then experience is really the best way to get the rest, case packs and gosh, I can go on. I love this stuff, but it can be pretty boring.
That is something that people don't see behind the scenes of building a purpose-driven brand.
Well, in general, my children. My children are pretty much at every part of this journey. I think when I look back and think, okay, why becoming an entrepreneur was really important to me. I think back to the thought processes that I had before I was married, before I had children. One of them was really, I mean, I'm a creative, but the other part was being able to have, I guess, I'm at a loss for the word I'm trying to say, but being able to have the ability to have
Autonomy or
my time. Yes, there we go. Autonomy over my
yeah,
thank you. I'm
'cause
telling you,
I'm with you on that, yeah.
the girl Perry and I, we are friends right now, unfortunately. Perry perimenopause. And
Mhm,
and
mhm.
I lose words sometimes. I always say Perry and I are best friends. So you might see
It's
me
like pregnancy brain too. It's like, you know what, your body is doing so many things.
so many
Sometimes it's like
so many things. And so I would say it was really to have autonomy over my time. And then they inspire everything that I do. And as a mom, I understand that experience of being a mom. And if I can do something and create something that in any way helps other parents, other moms, other dads really connect and be intentional about creating memories and spaces. We all want to create these spaces. And if I can help in any way, then that to me is amazing. I had a little girl come up to me. She met me at one of the markets that I was doing. I do a lot of kids markets, being in a kids phase. Um, and she said, "Oh, I'm an artist too." And I said, "You are?" And she goes, "Yeah." And then she goes, her mom came and the mom said, um, she's an artist, but people keep telling her not to do it because she's gonna not be successful. She's gonna be poor, and that's not something you should do. And I said, well, the next time someone tells you that, you let them know that you met someone whose company
Mm,
is projected to do $1.6 million next year. And
yes.
she's an artist. And she was like, really? And I said, yes. And I said, that person is me.
Mm,
And don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't do or you can't do anything you want to do. And I remember because my dad is a very traditional man, and I guess in a sense. And he knew that I was struggling and I wanted to go to art school. And my dad said, no, because you're going to be poor. You need to
mm,
go to school to be a lawyer. And so I went to Northeastern, 5-year school, studied political science, international relations, comparative politics, minor in sociology. I worked for state contractors. I've worked for federal contractors as a federal contractor and a state contractor. And what I recognized is that in studying for wanting all the things law that I did, that's not something I wanted to do. I was a creative. And so I not end up going to law school. Mhm. And I'm sure that that was a disappointment to many people. My father and I actually don't even talk. It's fine because I am living my truth and in my joy. And if you don't want to be part of that because it doesn't fit into a narrative or story that works for you, then that is completely okay with me. Um, and where I am in my life. If I'm happy and a happy me is a great me. It's a great mom, it's a great wife, it's a great friend, it's a great sister, daughter, aunt, all of those things. And so I told her that, and she found me at this larger thing. We just did an international market a couple of weeks ago, or a month, maybe about a month ago now. And she goes, Mom, I found her. I found her. That's her. And she comes up to me and she's like, I did it. I started doing my art. I started doing this. I have an Instagram. She's like, thank you so much. And it just warmed my heart. Look, I literally am, I can be emotional sometimes. I'm starting to
I'm getting emotional about it
just
because it's
thinking
so
about it
beautiful.
because there are always going to be times where people put their perspective of how your life should go on you. And you have to be, and it happens at a young age, and it might stray you from that path. But just know that you are the author of your own book. You write your own story.
There's so many things that I want to say to everything you said. I mean, everything about that just really just hits such a core string for me, and I know for so many other people. I mean, I talk to clients all day, every day, who struggle with the battle that you just described because family, society, everyone, they put these expectations based on what they think is best for them and they put it onto you. And there's so many people right now in therapy, for struggling to make the decision, do I betray myself to make other people happy? Or do I follow what my gut tells me and do something that's more in alignment with my soul? And you're living proof that it's okay to do that. That's how we thrive. And I love that you gave that to that little girl, especially because I know that children do it as you do and not as you say. Sometimes very well meaning people want to give you the advice of, you should just do this, you should just do this. And they've never been there before. They don't even know what it's like. Especially children, they're like, well, why should I trust your advice on that? You're not doing that. And so you were able to give her that real example and stand in it and say, look at me. And that is so special. So special. I'm sure
It
she
was
won't forget
special to
that.
me. It really was. It was because it usually doesn't come with bad intention. And so wanting more for your child or wanting more for a child generally doesn't come with bad intention. So wanting me to be a lawyer was
Mm.
saying, I want you to be in a place where you're financially stable, where you
Yes.
are able to take care of yourself, take care of your family, and build something for yourself. I understand that that's where that came from and what that meant. And a lot of times when people, especially when it comes to art, say, oh, well, you're going to be a starving artist. I don't necessarily mean it's not coming from a bad place. It's coming from usually a place of love or a place of concern. But regardless of where that place, where the origin of it is, I think you regret 100% of the things you don't do. At the end of your life, you're not going to say, I'm so glad that I didn't follow my dream. And if you follow your dream and you realize it doesn't work, then so go. Hey, I can always go back to working for the state. I could always go back to doing those things if that doesn't work. If this life of entrepreneurship does not work, I can always go back. I can always fall back on those things. So it is great to have something to fall back on. But At the same time, I'm so glad that I'm on the journey that I'm on right now because it's really, especially with Plano. Plano, I feel like really is bringing me back to that 12, 10, 12, 13-year-old girl who'd love to read books, who'd love to create stories, who'd love to draw characters. I'm connecting with her again. And I love that. I truly, truly love that. And if you'd asked that, 10-year-old, 12, 13-year-old girl, what she'd be, I probably would have said a lawyer. I actually wanted to be, at the time, this will age me a bit, the next Kofi Annan and head of the World Bank. Like that was my goal in life. It's I dream big.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted. That girl, I said that because of a lot of the influences that I had had back at the time. I drew and wrote stories all the time. And Play and Oak really allows me to tap into that childlike wonder that I have.
What are you most proud of when it comes to playing Oak and its impact?
Well, I would say that moment with the little girl, being able to have that experience with her is really one of the most impactful moments I've had in business as an entrepreneur throughout my entire journey, not just with Planet, but my entire journey as an entrepreneur. I think that has been one of the most impactful moments. And I would say that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful moment, and I'm sure you're a part of what's gonna be an origin story, because when we look back at our childhood and just experiences that shape us, when we look back, there are always these moments and these people that plant seeds. And a lot of times people don't realize that they're planting the seeds. It's just something that people do and say in passing, good or bad. But I can tell that's going to be some seed. It's proven, right? Because she started doing the things. So,
She's dead. Well, like she can't be any more than like 10 years old, 10 or 11. And she's a really great artist.
mm,
I wish I'd pulled up her Instagram so I can kind of shut her up. I have to like look
mm,
back because I followed
mhm.
her. She's like, "You're my first follower." And her mom is such a great cheerleader. Like shout out to her mom for being amazing and great um with just supporting her. But yeah, like I would say that is just one of the moments that like makes me look back and smile. I didn't realize I was that impactful until she
Mm,
literally had a couple of weeks ago her was like, Mom, that's her. And I was like, I didn't realize the impact that our conversation had had. I've seen her twice since then and each time she's just like telling me all the progress that she's making. And I really truly love that for her. And I love that she's able to explore it and if it doesn't end up being her life of art and it's just something she does on the side, that's great. But just the fact that she has an understanding that she can.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to get to our very special last question that I ask all of our guests. What does hustle mindfully mean to you as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as all of the things? What does that mean to you?
Conserving my energy.
Mm,
Hustle does not mean, and I think we've got like the word hustle has gotten a bad rap because it means pulling all nighters. It
yeah,
means disregarding what your body is telling you. And I understand that hustle because I was in that hustle culture where prior to motherhood, we'll say, I disregarded what my body was telling me. I disregarded that I was tired. And I'd say, you're not hustling if you're not moving. But hustling mindfully means respecting your energy, respecting the boundaries that your energy gives you, and then understanding what you can and cannot do and being okay with what you can get done in the day,
mm,
especially as a mom. I feel like we put way too many things on our plate. I currently homeschool my 9-year olds, yes, and my 3-year olds, which of course homeschooling a 3-year old and 9-year old are completely different. I will say that different levels of involvement.
mhm,
But also, I think we try to juggle so many plates. And sometimes it's okay to put a plate down.
Mm,
It's okay. It's okay to put the plate down. And I can get done in 2 hours what I used to not be able to get done in a week because I'm more mindful about the tasks that I'm doing, because I'm more mindful about my energy and what I have to give to each task. And I
mhm,
think being mindful about and really listening to your body and understanding that you do not have to do all things all the time is what that means to me.
mm.
That's how I interpret it. And that's how I work now. And so if I don't respond to an email right away, that's okay. Unless it's urgent, of course, and time sensitive, that's okay. If I don't, get something done that's not incredibly time sensitive, let's say I don't record a podcast, like, or for one of our story podcasts. If I don't do that, that's okay. It'll get done when it needs, before it needs to get done. If I have that thing on my list, I try to accomplish three major things a day. That's it.
I do the same.
One of
I
those
do that
things is
same
keeping
thing.
my children alive.
The most important, right?
Most important. That's it. Keeping them fed, keeping them entertained, keeping them happy, and keeping them alive. That's my number one. The other two major things generally are in terms of work. And so let's say, we're onboarding with QVC right now, um, doing something that pertains to that onboarding process. We have our story podcast, and it might mean, recording one of the stories for the characters that we have. And so I guess this is a very long answer, long-winded answer. Respecting your boundaries and your energy and understanding it's okay to put play down. We don't need to juggle all things all the time.
Exactly. Michelle, this has been such an invigorating conversation. I just feel like this was the self-care, the messages, the inspiration that I needed. I'm sure other people are just gonna feel the same and take from it what they need. But I just want to thank you for your honesty, your vulnerability, also your bravery and leadership, because I know, sometimes people are afraid to really stand strongly in who they are because they don't want to make other people uncomfortable. But you are proof that when you stand in your power and you show your wins and what you're capable of, it then gives someone else permission to do the same. So thank you for that. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to remain true to myself because when the day comes that I transition, I want to be happy with the things that I've done. I want to feel fulfilled. I don't want to have regret of the things that I didn't do. And so I live a life that reflects where I want to be in mental space I want to be in that time when it comes to transitioning to the other side of life.
Thank you so much for being here. And where can people find you and Playing Oak?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I believe my LinkedIn is probably under my maiden name. So it's Michelle Brickens, Mishell, B's and boy, Rookins on LinkedIn. You can find Play and Oak at playindoak.com. And we are across all socials at Play and Oak. And yeah, reach out. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur and you're like, I have a question about how to get into retail. I have a question about how you did it as a mom. I have a question about, anything that we spoke about today. I am more than happy. I love sharing the energy, not necessarily the
The resources.
gems and resources that
Yeah,
I've learned from the
yeah.
mistakes or wait, opportunities for
Attempts with feedback, right?
my attempts with feedback and share that feedback
Yeah,
with others so that they don't have to have those same attempts.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.